Hello and thanks for joining the Thursday edition of Journalist Hangout. I'm Ayodele Ozubakun. Today on the program, INEC expresses fear over possible violence in Kogi Governorship election. Kano State ends plaudits for introducing free and compulsory basic and secondary education. And later on the show, second batch of 314 Nigerian returnees arrive Lagos from South Africa. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Martins Oloja. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. Thank you for being with us. It's no longer speculation that the electoral contests in Nigeria have suffered violence and the violent are taking them by force. Less than 2 months to the conduct of the November 16 governorship election in Kogi and Bayelsa states, the electoral umpire fears that violence may be unleashed during the polls. At an advocacy program in Lokoja, INEC resident electoral commissioner for Kogi, James Apam, expressed worry over possible outbreak of violence during the poll in the states. Now, let's put that into perspective with this statement by the candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the North Central states.
I appeal that we do election following all the doctrines of proper election, not introducing thuggery, violence, ballot snatching. To me, that is no election. Our democracy must improve. But I hasten to say that the government must be neutral in the electioneering process. Like I told, nobody has a monopoly of violence. So I advise the other parties not to introduce violence to the election because we are not afraid of violence.
That's the candidate of the People's Democratic Party. Jide, what's that his full name? Engineer Musa Wada. Musa Wada. And talking tough. At the initial stage, he was advising the governor and other candidates like a gentleman. But towards the end of that interview, saying nobody has the monopoly of violence, that we have the capacity to give it to you the way you want it.
Yeah, even though it didn't exactly say it's the way you are saying it. But I think that you cannot blame him for speaking in this way because of what happened during the last election in Kogi State, especially the House of Assembly election. Frankly, many people could not vote. Thugs took over, firing gunshots, not just into the air, but at people. In my village, some of those thugs were apprehended on the first day of the election, that's the presidential election. Largely, they succeeded in chasing people away during the second round of election. And that was what happened in Kogi East as well. In many places, people's homes were surrounded, they were not allowed to vote. And you know, that also happened in the rerun election that we had in Kogi State almost 2 years ago. That the rerun election to replace the majority leader or the deputy majority leader of the House of Reps, the very popular Lokoja politician, Jibrin also. So much violence was reported. INEC admitted that there was so much violence. And the quantum of cancelled votes was such that you will expect that even that election will be cancelled, because the cancelled votes were much higher than the margin of the victory. But INEC allowed the outcome to stand. So, but for me, it's a shameful thing that after that by-election, election in Kogi still showed all the characters of violence. We can't continue like that. We are not supposed to be barbaric people. But the people go to great lengths to disrupt elections, to ensure that the will of the people does not prevail. The people who unleash violence at innocent voters, who fire at innocent voters, who kill innocent voters, those ones fit the description of barbarism. They are barbaric. There's no way you can describe them. And if you emerge as a governor, you are a product of a massively rigged election. Or as a president, you are a product of a massively rigged election. Or as a National Assembly member, you are a product of an election that was patently rigged, that people can see clearly, that people lost their lives, and you are happy to emerge as a winner of that election. You are barbaric. You are nothing else. You are not even a human being. Our conduct of elections must show that we are truly people who are products of growth and development, people who are truly growing in every sense of the word. We can't continue to have rigged elections, elections that people can't be happy to get involved in. No, at this stage of our national life as Nigerians, we should be concerned. And that's why I'm not, if Wada can talk like this, honestly, I do not blame him. Because we've had elections rigged in the past. We've had elections in which people lost their lives just because they wanted to exercise their franchise. Is that how they kill themselves in America in the name of election? We want to be like them. Is that how they kill themselves in Britain in the name of election? Even countries around us, Botswana, African countries, Ghana. Is that how they waste people's lives because of election? Because you think you will not win if you do not resort to violence? That has to stop. And that's why we've been appealing that even our electoral processes must change. We must make it extremely difficult, if not impossible, for the idiots who prowl our streets on election day to stage manage electoral victory. We must make it difficult. If it is science that will ensure that we are able to achieve that, so be it. Let us be able to use science to have elections, the fidelity of which we can truly be proud of. For now, I cannot be proud of the fidelity of our elections. I cannot pick the holy book and say, oh, this candidate of mine that I supported truly won the elections.
Your intervention here, when you look at the stakes and the people involved, politicians will always use money. They were always armed some of their followers, and, you know, violence is like synonymous with our electoral process. And you will see our security people, despite the fact that they are not empowered to carry arms close to the polling units, but you still see people still cutting away ballot boxes, still doing all sorts of things during our election.
Well, you know, as Ejide has noted, it is there is a way even observers who are not Nigerians or even election observers can say that it is in our character to associate violence with election in our own environment here. Because you can see now that people do not pay attention to other things apart from election, apart from politics. This is an environment where you ask people, what do you do? They say, I'm a politician. You cannot find that in most civilized parts of the world, people introducing themselves as politicians. And
second address.
Yes, it's a second address. And then it has become a do or die affair. Especially coming from this background that we have always talked about, and people, observers, people who like us, always advise that electoral offenders should be punished. And we always repeat this here, that where you don't punish people, you encourage people to get involved in violence next time. But when you punish people, you deter. But there's no deterrence now. And this is the issue. And people have been referring to Justice Uwai's panel's report and all those things like that, agencies. But all these institutions cannot do more if we as a people do not have some consensus. Some will say elite consensus about a kind of election. Look at the scenario he painted, that products of impure election, products of all these impurities that Jide talked about, cannot be legitimate, and they don't have power. They cannot say that we have a mandate, we have this, we have that. And this is, as I used the word before, which you repeated, is a reproach that I think we should remove from our political recruitment process we call election. It must be pure, because Kogi, now it's good that a politician has spoken, and security agencies, intelligence agencies are supposed to prepare. They should get prepared for this. Thank goodness it's a staggered election. It's not within a general election. But that also does not mean that people who always carry out this, and they know that even when they are arrested, they will be released. They will be planning how to do this, how to do that, because it's a do or die affair in our own environment, which is not good.
Today we had a foretaste to this violence that INEC is kind of predicting this election. The People's Democratic Party, during their primaries, they've almost concluded the process. They've even finished voting. They've sorted the list, and they were counting. I think out of 11 boxes, they've counted 8 for gunmen, I don't know, to access the venue and start shooting sporadically. And I think somebody died. You know, in the process, people were scampering, and I saw people sustaining injury. Why is the stakes that high?
Well, the thing is, I think that a lot of permutations point to a PDP victory in the Kogi election, because, you know, our people are still highly tribalistic. And the Igalas, the people of Kogi East, are in the majority, clear majority, not a marginal majority.
Clear majority.
Yes, clear majority. So some people must have felt that if a candidate from that zone emerged the winner, and the majority threw its weight behind that candidate, that could win. So that made the stakes to be higher. It then means that, look, you must have an eye on the primary election that is likely to produce that kind of candidate. So if you are desperate to win from Kogi East, for example, you want to be sure that the party that is likely to throw up someone from that zone, the primaries of that party, you put an eye on the primaries of that party. It happened even during the Awolowo years too, that people will even cross from rival parties to try to determine who won election in the rival party. If they, because sometimes they think that if certain candidates emerge, then they are likely to win. So they want to partly influence what goes on in that rival party. It happened during the contest between C.O. Adebayo and J.S. Olawe.
Cornelius Adebayo.
Yes, you know, and eventually Cornelius Adebayo defeated J.S. Olawe. I think after the third attempt, they kept disrupting it, you know. So, but that is something that we have to put behind us. The PDP guys were already counting, and I think that is also the reason Dino suffered that kind of defeat, because for people who are taunting him that, oh, so he's not that popular, he got 70 votes. Of course, out of 10 ballots, only 2 ballots were counted for Dino. And once the thing was disrupted, the agents took away their ballots. And at the end of the day, because the process had ended, at the end of the day, by the next day, they could still allocate to each person what he actually got. But for someone who they were counting his own ballot at that time, they had only counted just 2 ballots for him. Definitely, he had the opportunity to score much more. And I think the PDP national chairman admitted in the end that Dino actually scored much more than that. I think Dino, even from the ballots that were not counted, Dino got more than 400 votes out of the ballots uncounted. But he still didn't win. I'm not saying he won. He would still not have won because a majority of the people in that party had made up their mind that it has to be Wada. So
Wada.
Yes, Dino would still not have won. But Dino scored more than 400 votes based on the outcome of the election. But it was 70 votes that was counted, legitimately counted for him. And the following day, his agent actually thought that there would be a fresh election. So the ballots that were given to him, he did not bring them to he did not bring them to be counted because he thought there would be a fresh election. That's the claim. So, but when you
lost it.
Yes, but they told Dino, look, you got much more. The leadership of the party told him, yes, you got much more than this. But in the end, you lost. Support the candidate of the party.
Okay.
So Dino too can barely protest because he didn't win the primaries. But he scored more than 400 votes.
Not 70.
Not 70.
That's
yes.
All right, I have my first caller. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, good evening. Thank you very much.
Rahim from Oshogbo.
Yes. Yes.
All right, go ahead with your contribution, please.
Yes. And the PDP man that spoke, why can't you give, who disrupted their primaries? Is it APC or PDP themselves? If he's talking of surgery during the coming election,
we don't know.
then it is, even when they were doing their primaries, they had problems. Why is he referring to other parties? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rahim, for your contribution. So, Martin, we are going to have this election, Kogi and Bayelsa. And if you look at even the Niger Delta, they also have this tendency for violence.
Yes.
Where if you go to the Riverine area, the Brass area, the Ukpuma area, on election day in Bayelsa,
Yes,
I covered the election in Bayelsa 4 years ago.
Yes.
And I went to that Ukpuma area and youths, people carrying arms, it was a common sight. You can't even distinguish security from men carrying AK-47 and machine guns all around.
Yeah, you see, it's also the volatile area, and all the time, anytime you have election in Bayelsa, especially Bayelsa and Rivers State, you know that it's always, you use the word high stake all the time, and you see what followed the primaries of even PDP. It is one now. You see Alaibe, one of them is gone to court.
Yeah.
And you see, it means that the supporters of Alaibe are on edge, and some others. So it is still the same pattern, whether it is in Kogi or it is the same people, we Nigerians, that you find here and there, that it's a do or die affair. And that is why you see now, for so long, people hadn't seen Supreme Court of the United Kingdom meeting. But our own here is like almost every week. Like we've been discussing this thing. After violence, they end up in court. It's the court, as we have been discussing, and even Jide has been referring to it here, that I mentioned it long ago, that it's a big problem, that people do not agree because of what Supreme Court, we felt the Supreme Court had settled with Zamfara and Rivers State, that look, primaries, all these primaries that you handle this way, if you do not follow due process, you lose. Supreme Court seems to have deepened our democracy with that, but our people have not changed their attitude from what we are seeing.
Yes, yes.
And at the end of the day, it is the judiciary that determines the mandate of our political leaders. And it's very, very unfortunate. Therefore, it's a lesson for our politicians and the people who recruit and sponsor them, ensure that we deepen democracy. After 20 years of unbroken democracy now, we should be celebrating something, that we are organized people, we are civilized people, and we can deepen democracy, and the electoral process can be better organized by the renewal of our mind, transformation can only come by the renewing of our mind this way to ensure that we deepen democracy, our people change their attitude. It's not a do or die affair. We get other skills, don't say that I'm a politician and they will follow politician. If my candidate doesn't win, heaven must fall. It shouldn't be in our character.
You know, the recent court cases that we've seen has made it to look like as if you don't get it on election day, you're on your own. Yeah. So do whatever means, try anything possible to get it on that election day. If you have to deploy violence, especially when, you know, maybe your opposition is popular, if you have to disrupt the election to use of violence, and is that what INEC is looking at here in Kogi State?
Well, what the courts have clearly shown is that once INEC has declared someone winner, there's little you can do, because the pattern is a very consistent pattern. INEC has to be able to acquit itself thoroughly that, yes, I've organized a free and fair election. I've done what's needed to be done. But a situation in which whoever INEC declares winner, even when you feel cheated, it looks impossible for you to muster all the evidence that is needed to upturn the injustice. It's now becoming impossible, thanks to our courts. It's almost, so it means now that violence will get worse in our elections because people will do whatever it takes to win and be declared winner by INEC, knowing that once they are declared winner, it's extremely difficult for you to prove that they were not validly declared winner. So this is the situation. The people in Bayelsa who beat up that policeman and were dragging him. Violence in a Bayelsa election is limited to a part of the state, not everywhere. We have to, and we know the people who are behind this barbaric attitude. We know them. They want to win by all means. The people beat up that policeman, a senior policeman for that matter, and were dragging him. They wanted to go and guillotine him. Have they been brought to justice? That is the question. What is the IG doing? The current IG, his own staff, his own senior staff, humiliated by aberrant politicians. What did he do? Have they been brought to justice? Because the pictures of those guys were published in newspapers. We saw them leading the man away to Golgotha. What has he done? This is the thing. If you're an IG, you don't do your job, you don't make examples of some stupid politicians, at the end of the day, people will ask the question that, are you truly worthy of the position that you're occupying? Because we saw those boys dragging the senior policeman away. What we want to know, if it is an innocent boy now, SARS men, rogue SARS men will be dragging them like thieves. Those guys who beat up your own colleague, what has been done to them? We need to know. Once we let them get away with this nonsense, we can never have an election that is sanitized. We can never. We are just deceiving ourselves.
All right. Kano State,
as the conclusion,
northern Nigeria's commercial knife center, is in the thick of the Amajiri conundrum in the region. So when the state governor, Abdullahi Ganduje, introduced free and compulsory basic and secondary education in the state, many were of the view that the Amajiri system may be about to be defeated. At the launch of the scheme in Kano State 2 weeks ago, with 834,366 pupils, Governor Ganduje said the program will cost the state 200 million naira monthly. Let's hear from the governor.
Education for all, focusing on providing equal educational opportunities to all children in Kano State. 2. Girl child education, especially for the poor and rural families. 3. Out-of-school children enrolled for Western education. 4. Integration of the Al-Majri education system. May I reiterate that the state government has already abolished the payment of school fees in all public primary and secondary schools with effect from September 2019. Upon this milestone, we are also prepared today to flag off the funding components of the pre and compulsory basic secondary education program with the direct funding of schools in the state, numbering 1,180, with a total school population of 834,366 at an average cost of 200 naira per month, 200 million naira per month, and 2.4 billion naira per year.
Governor Abdullahi Ganduje of Kano State. Martins, you know, when you go to a big city like Kano State and you see the number of out-of-school children, you see the number of political talks, you see the number of amanjiri, and you know, like they're sitting on a keg of gunpowder waiting to explode. Now, with this initiative by Governor Ganduje, that's okay, make it accessible, primary and secondary education. What do you make of this?
No, definitely, and it was the vice president himself who was there and was very, very happy that the governor was actually keying into the initiative of the president on at their National Economic Council when he directed all state governors to launch free and compulsory basic and secondary education all over the country, and that the governor of Kano State just took the steam out of this thing from everybody, began the initiative by launching it in a comprehensive way through a summit, a 2-day summit in Kano, the 3rd and 4th. And where the vice president referred to the preponderance of out-of-school children, more than 10 million in the country, and even the governor himself in his own speech admitted that they had up to 3 million of out-of-school children coming into Kano State from various parts of the northern states and some West African states like Chad, Niger, and even the northern part of Cameroon, that they are there. But the significance of these is that the integration of the Almajiri system of education into the conventional system of education, which we have always denied, that one is very, very significant. That local, for us to make progress, for us to be part of civilization, for us to talk about insecurity and even defeat insecurity, Boko Haram and what have you, you have to enhance this education system. We cannot confine ourselves to this Almajiri system of education. We must be part of the civilized world. And that is what they want to do. They want to do it by abolishing fees in primary and secondary school. And that is the statistics he gave, that it will cost 200 million every month and 2.4 billion every year. And they are ready to do that by rehabilitating schools, by making the school environment to be conducive, by training and retraining teachers, by recruiting 3,000 volunteer teachers, and so many other things like that, because I was there.
Okay. We'll take this break. When we come back, we'll talk more. This is Journalist Hangouts. Welcome back. It's your multiple award-winning program, Journalist Hangouts, and we're reaching you live from Television Continental here in Lagos, Nigeria. Now, we were talking about Kano State before we went on that break, and will this in any way help curb the menace of Almajiri? Because it's a big problem. Go around the streets, especially the northern part of the country, you see them roaming around. And even in the southern part, you see out-of-school children. You have a lot of people selling, hawking around. But Almajiri is a big challenge in the north.
It's a big problem and a big embarrassment that we still have the Almajiri system. Almajiri as an idea is not a bad one. It is the way it's been implemented in northern Nigeria by some selfish clerics that is the cause of the problem. It's not as if Almajiri as an idea is a bad one. And I've said it before that even some of the big Nigerians were once Almajiri. Some of them even did Almajiri or is it Almajira? They did their own did their own Almajira outside of the country, like Nigeria Republic, and it still didn't stop them from becoming worthy people. So it's the way it's been implemented that diminishes those children. Those children have nowhere to stay. They sleep in the open, and it makes them hardened and ready to take to crime. So this is the thing. Kano State has more than 8,000 primary schools. Yeah. That's the highest in the country.
More than 8,000 primary schools.
So if Kano State can defeat this out-of-school children conundrum, definitely Nigeria will be on the way to defeating it. Yeah. Because apart from areas where you have war, banditry, and the rest, we don't have any reason for our children not to be in school. But the big problem, because for the state to succeed, all kinds of steps must be taken. You must do your best to make even the learning environment conducive. If it's not conducive, then the children won't enjoy going to school. But the problem is that most of the infrastructure that can be used for this are in a terrible state. So the government needs more than 100 billion to renovate those schools. And that is a big, big money to find. So they need to partner with foreign donor agencies. Yeah. They will help solve some of these problems.
Okay, I have the head of service, Dr. Kabiru Shehu, Kano State Head of Service on the line. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Now, can you tell us about this free and compulsory basic and secondary education in the States?
Well, thank you very much. I think it is clear from the onset that the national policy on education in Nigeria stipulates free education only up to basic, the basic system. That is for the first 9 years. I think our own concept is to take free education up to the end of secondary school education. That is to give opportunity to all, including particularly the girl child, perhaps the out-of-school child, the Almajiri that is being talked about. In fact, part of the system or the program involves the integration of our traditional Islamic schools, Almajiri schools, into the system in such a way that such schools get funding from government. They stay where they are, but they get funding from government, and a committee has been set up to decide, to give government suggestions on the number of subjects that could be added to the typical Islamic schooling that is there traditionally. And in that regard, government has put in place the mechanism of employing 3,000 teachers so that 1 or 2 will be sent per school to such schools. I think we are thinking of teaching in the traditional Almajiri school, sending teachers to teach subjects like mathematics, English, Arabic, some Islamic jurisprudence, and so on. And at the end of it all, we will think about certification so that once a child reaches a particular age and attains some qualification from the subject that is being taught at the level of the integrated Almajiri school, he will be able to go for further education, senior secondary school, and of course into university education. The system is done in such a way that all schools, existing schools...
Dr. Kabiru, this will cost you 200 million naira monthly and 2.4 billion naira annually. Yes. How do you intend to sustain this?
This This money is meant for the day-to-day running of the schools. At the moment, government has already disbursed a large chunk of that money to schools that have already been cleared for the system. And this money is paid to schools on the basis of the number of students per school. We have created some profile where the expenditure profile so that some percentage is allocated to each item. And at the end of the month, every school will now make returns, and we see how the system will go before the beginning of the next month, and that it will go on like that. It is a system where schools get funding directly from government in such a way that no parent is to pay a kobo for school fees for children or students and pupils attending from primary schools up to the end of senior secondary school system.
Jide, you want to?
Yeah, finding 200 million a month is not really a problem because Kano is still one of the states that receives the highest from the federation
and the IGR,
the distributable revenue from the foundation account. But the bigger problem, where they really need to get it right, is in the infrastructure. Because I worked in Kano for about 8 years. I know the state of schools. I still go there, and I know that this government needs to spend a lot of money. And it's already projected that they need to spend about 100 billion to renovate those schools. Now the government plans to build new schools. Those schools will be 3-story in nature. Because to implement this successfully, there's no way you won't build new schools. And the new schools, you need land. But you know the nature of Kano. So in order to economize land, they now have to build 3-story structures so that you can take as many pupils as possible. Space. The sort of structures that you saw Zulum come up with for his 100 days. So there's a lot of work ahead for the state. There's a lot of work. And the funding, they must find alternative sources of funding for this project to succeed. Because if they depend solely on what comes from the federation account, then there will be problems.
Martin, your final take on this?
Yeah, no, definitely. The deputy governor himself, while summarizing certain things that they had done before that one, said to the participants and, of course, the people there that they should not regard it as a political project. That is a project that is there to the mind of the governor, because the governor himself had good education from ABU to BUK and the University of Ibadan, where he obtained his doctorate degree, and his wife too has a doctorate degree.
And 2 of his kids.
And 2 of his kids are already there. Yes, doctorate. So that this education policy is not a political project. The deputy governor himself warned that it shouldn't be, and that they are going to launch education trust fund, that they require development partners, even the representatives of DFID, representatives of UNICEF, representatives of, were there. They were there. They were there.
No, they're always happy when you
do this kind of strike.
Very, very happy. So many ambassadors, sent representatives and development partners were there because they were always interested in any state that is in that is giving, providing this basic and secondary education. And they had references in UAE, Saudi Arabia. The UAE ambassador there said, look, we have almost about 100% literacy rate. We have almost achieved that in UAE, despite the fact that they are also an Islamic country. They were talking to themselves, even senior lecturers and even professors from their institutions, including BUK, were questioning the basis for certain way that he described the Al-Majiri system of education that they didn't pay attention to. They did not integrate it in time, and they had all sorts of problems with it, no proper recognition, no enlightenment, nothing.
And to show that, to show that foreign partners are ready to help Kano State succeed, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has already given 8,000 scholarships. Yes. So they are just waiting.
He was there.
They are just waiting. Once these people are churned out, they have scholarship waiting. So all we can do is encourage the government, because Kano has shown that it's a pace setter by introducing this.
Yes.
We encourage them to do their best to ensure that this succeeds. Because if this succeeds, then it will make people happy beyond even Kano State. These are the kind of success stories that we want
all around the country.
Bandwagon effect.
Yes. Okay, moving on now. North, south, east, or west, home, they say, is the best. After the long waits, 314 Nigerians fleeing the relentless xenophobic violence in South Africa returned home to welcoming hands. Their plane touched down at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos, at 7:40 Wednesday night. This makes it a total of 501 Nigerians that have so far been evacuated from the former apartheid enclave. 187 Nigerians were previously evacuated. Let's share the moments of arrival with you as captured by our correspondent.
After the long wait, more than 300 returnees from South Africa have arrived. Journalists were not allowed into the arrival point for security reasons. They were subsequently brought to the narco section for verification. Chairperson of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, Abike Dabiri Erewan, glowingly spoke of government's plans for the returnees.
On the part of the government, you receive them with money to help them survive for a few days. Bank of Industry will also will give them the number. They also call, they get soft loans, and the state governors, are expected to now work on complete rehabilitation and reintegration. There will be medicals here. We have a team of doctors who have volunteered. We have counselors here. We have also trainers who says they want to do a needs assessment.
CEO of Air Peace, Allen Onyema, says this gesture has brought respect to Nigeria.
Nigeria is now being respected all over the world because of this singular act. That all over the world, people are talking about this evacuation. So for once, Nigeria rose up to the act to be respected. The thing is this, it's not about Air Peace and us, it's all about nationhood.
We spoke with some evacuees on their ordeal in South Africa.
It's nothing to write home about. It's so bad and awful. Actually, they don't like foreigners, more especially the Nigerians. No matter how hard you tried, they will never like you.
Yeah, I think the government, both governments of South Africa and Nigeria, they should come together to see how they can, foster their diplomatic ties. Because Nigeria there right now, they are really in a tight corner.
187 Nigerians were previously evacuated from South Africa as a result of the xenophobic attacks. This now makes the total number of persons evacuated so far to 501, but more still willing to come.
Making 501 Nigerians that have been evacuated so far, it must really be a painful decision, Babajide. Some of them, they've started their lives. Some of them are even married to foreigners there. You can see some with kids, coming back, leaving whatever they have. And like the person that they spoke with there, said the Nigerian government must work with the South African government to do something about that relationship, because the South Africans, they don't like Nigerians, especially and foreigners.
Yes, they don't like fellow Africans, not simply for foreigners. If we had been treating Indians like that, then you won't have the number of Indians that you have in Durban. Because outside of India, there is no place where you have the kind of population of Indians like Durban in South Africa.
Really?
Yes, I've been there a few times. So the truth is, they are not extending that hatred to white foreigners. It's fellow blacks. They believe, these are people who have not got, they don't have the skill. Most of them don't have the skill. They are jobless, And they think that the few jobs available, Nigerians and other blacks are taken away. One South African even analyzed it this way, that look, your currency is rubbish, but our own currency is very strong. So if they pay you peanuts in South African currency, it's still a lot of money here in our own currency. He analyzed it. So the average Nigerian is prepared to take peanuts. But they will say, no, this is not money. We don't want this. Yes.
So the logic.
So now, for them, they think, oh, it's our people who are taking away the jobs that should belong to them. So they are fighting our people. And our people, the truth about the Nigerian, no matter how much we badmouth ourselves, the Nigerian, the go-getter spirit of the Nigerian is #1 in the whole of this continent. Wherever the Nigerian goes, there's nowhere you go, by the way, that you don't find Nigerians.
Nowhere.
Go to some of the worst countries in Southeast Asia, you find Nigerians surviving, working in different parts of the world. And they become successful within a short time. I've given the example of Olowude when he went to Ghana. And within a short time, IGI was so successful that IGI had to ask for a fresh license to set up a new insurance company. And the government had no hesitation because they saw that IGI had come, fresh ideas, and they are making money. Nigerian banks are in Ghana doing well. From the day one bank from Nigeria set its foot there, others began to come in. It's the same thing in Gambia. We are good people. We are what we've always lacked is good leadership. But in terms of our enterprising nature, there are a few countries where you will find people as enterprising as Nigerians. So that will even lead to envy. People talk about drugs, this and that. Are South Africans not involved in drugs? Are Asians not involved in drugs? Why is it that they are not destroying even places where those drugs are sold? They are targeting people, car mats and other cheap places. So this is the thing. When you listen to South African women, their own testimony is different from what you hear from the South African men. The women say we take care of them better. That we don't even ask. That some of them are even after one, after two. Our men don't care. They still come for them and take good care of them. That giving a woman money to go and do her hair is strange to them in South Africa. Yeah. But our men will buy clothes for you, buy shoes for you, and still give you money to go and do your hair. Because we like to see our women looking really chic. That is a culture that is alien to them there. Yeah. So they are bound to be envious. And when you are involved in a competition for a woman, you are a South African, you are involved in a competition over a woman with a Nigerian, you know that you have lost. Because you will never be able to match the Nigerian. So these are the things that bring about envy. Definitely. Our people must understand. And if someone like Julius Malema can come out and say, see, direct your anger at a different set of people, not fellow blacks. Yet some of our people, they can talk about those bad things that Nigerians do there. There are bad eggs everywhere. Not all Americans too are good.
Martins?
Yeah. You know, it's really unfortunate that we find ourselves this way. I think I want to underline the word he used about leadership. You know, this analysis about the lessons that we can learn from what is happening, that we have space, we have resources to even make this place conducive for everybody. But leadership, and there are leaders who are listening to what is happening, they are watching what is happening and what has happened to our people. It is black on black. It is not, you know, that we should forget about xenophobia. This is not something like that. We should emphasize black on black.
It's black on black.
Yes,
it's black on black hatred.
Hatred. You know, black on black hatred.
Black on black hate-fueled violence.
Violence. So this one, but then they will say it's their country. They say, why would, as we noted here the other day, they say, why would you leave your country to come and be doing babbing here? Even if they can't do it well, they say, no, these are things, yes, in this place we need skilled people. You know, these South Africans, we don't want to insult them. Most of them don't want to get involved in some of the things that, as Jide said, our people get involved in. They are very, very, very vibrant. They do it well. When they handle their women, they handle the women better than they can handle. And these are the things that they get involved in. But the lesson, apart from enjoying the story, the lessons from all these ones, we just tell our people at home, please try as far as it is politically possible to make our environment conducive, to get our people involved in skill set that can make us to live well here, and disrupt the school curriculum, wherever you have training institutions, so that we have employability skills, and we do not have to just go there and be doing some things that they just hate us for. And I think it's very, very important. There. Yes? They don't disturb them.
This thing is beyond, you see, it's even beyond good leadership. Yes, good leadership can keep so many people here. But Americans are going to China. They are even learning the Chinese language to go and work in China. Economic immigration is not limited to any country. No matter how good your country is, people will live on the basis of economic migration. So people will leave the US to go and work in Britain. People will leave Britain to go and work in the US. And they should not come under any form of attack because they've chosen to go and ply their trade in our country. It is the height of barbarism for what is happening in South Africa to be happening. Because South Africans to go all over the globe to work. Is that the same treatment that they get in the places that they go to? Or they want me to believe that every South African is resident in his country and working? Of course, that's not true. You know, people say that African footballers go to play in other countries.
This is, you can see, this is coming on the heel of this trade partnership we just launched. And how will it happen? How will integration happen if we have this
hatred for one another.
Yes, black on black hate-induced violence.
All right.
You mentioned it. And I think our leaders in Africa, generally, yes.
Thank you. Martins
do something about it.
Thank you for being our guest on the show.
Thank you.
And the maestro himself, Babajide Kolade Otitoju. Thank you for always being there. And that's our offering today. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can also watch Journalist Hangout on our platform showing on the screen. We're also on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I'm Ayodele Zubaku. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.